Cloud. Um, so yeah, thanks for joining me. Part of this conversation was, Twinkle, and I actually said Tiffany in the email. I realized that later, but it was actually Twinkle and Katrina. Oh yeah, we're missing Katrina. Oh, maybe somebody else just popped on.
I just got on. Hi.
Hey, nice to see you, or hear you. It looks like you're dialing in. Where in the world are you these days?
Well, today I'm in Forest Hills and my Wi-Fi is being funky and I may need to hit the road in a half hour or so. So I figured let me start on the call so I could take you with me if that happens.
Okay, cool. So Twinkle and Katrina and I have been sort of chatting on Fridays, just sort of thinking about audience and stuff like that. And just an outgrowth that sort of came from that conversation for me was perhaps changing right now, the message comes out under my name. And perhaps there's a way to make it more broader, not broader, but perhaps allow for more, I don't know, it just feels a little weird that it all kind of comes through my name, in my opinion. And I wanted to have a conversation of like what it would be like to maybe name the place where the message comes out something else, which might allow a little more accessibility or something like that. And I just wanted to talk it out with you guys to see what you thought. Obviously it would allow potentially to have other voices on there, although probably I would be the main voice, at least for the foreseeable future. And yeah, just what the name should be. What's the space that's trying to be curated and cultivated? So that was sort of the nature of it. Twinkle and Katrina and I worked on an avatar together, and I worked on an avatar with some other people who I'm trying to build a year-long course with, and that year-long course is really designed to help bring people into an intimate connection with God, with the divine, and then sort of help them move into sharing that message with the world. So it's not just a sort of spiritual discernment course as much as it's really getting in touch with your call and then leading that call in the world. So there was another avatar that was sort of created with those people. But I just wanted to sort of check and see what your opinions were on whether the name change should happen, and what would feel comfortable or exciting, interesting. Any thoughts?
Not sure. Offhand, a name doesn't come to me. What's the formal name right now?
It's just Ian Whitemar. Like the portal is ianwhitmar.com. You sign up.
Right, yeah.
The meditations go up there. But if classes start happening, so I think, a model that I was sort of thinking about was, Richard Rohr has CAC, which is, I can't remember exactly what it is. It's contemplative something.
Center for Action and Contemplation.
Center for Action and Contemplation, yeah. And I guess what I wasn't crazy about was I just don't like the idea of like a center or school or I don't know. It just feels so you know, in some of the conversations we had going back like maybe a month or so, you know, I really loved you know, Tiffany put together a meal at her house where she invited all these people over, nuns and just different seekers that were part of traditions but weren't really being fed by them. And they just had a meal together to talk about. So the image of a table sort of came to me. I just loved that idea of people coming to eat together and talk about where their spirit was being led. Maybe helping foster table conversations or kitchen table conversations. That was an image that came. I don't know if it's necessarily the right one, but I just, you know, I threw out that T.D. Jakes one, which is the Potter's House, which, you know, it's I think that's right from the Bible, and not necessarily one that I'm super drawn to, but I kind of loved how it was not like the school of, you know, whatever or something, you know. It's like you're.
I was curious, is there anything, and I can't remember if I've asked this of you or yet, is there anything that people organically call it when they gather with you? Like, is there some reference or nickname that is already in place? And I'll just back that up to say, like, Twinkle's Place is what my house has been called for decades. And now I just brand it Twinkle's Place. Now that's my name in there, but that was what people had been calling it. You know, we're having dinner at Twinkle's Place. We're having a ritual at Twinkle's Place. And so now that's what it is. Is there anything that people are already calling your gatherings or your work?
No. Not that I know of. Because most of my work has been really centered around an institution, like some sort of church.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think most of the in-person stuff I did came through those places. And then most of the online stuff had this sort of like one-on-one relationship. But, you know, what I'd really like to see is more, I mean, we've talked about this building of a Sangha, you know, of people that, oh, I just saw Jonathan's face.
Yeah, it's glitchy. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So it doesn't all like cycle right into me, but maybe there's a message that moves between the people.
Mm-hmm. And your vision is for the potential of having other teachers and leaders be part of whatever this is that you are forming, so that they might step into leading a workshop or leading a group. Is that what?
Yeah, I hadn't gone all the way down that line yet, because I'm trying to get 1 foot ahead of the other. Sure. But yes, I do think that does make it possible.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I have thought about, you know, for example, you know, Katrina has been leading these retreat for women, and like, what would it be like to sort of have partners and stuff, and, you know, who knows? Is there a collaboration that happens between people? So. And also, I don't know what it is. I just resist I mean, I totally understand the branding that happens under, let's say, like an Eckhart Tolle or something like that. Like, I think you just go there, it's his name, right? And in a way, it makes sense. He's got these big books, right? So people search that out. But I guess I kind of resist that a little bit. Like, I'd like the message actually to be about God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, somewhere, like, that's the point.
And is it stationary or is it moving? Like, is it a place, like a...
Not a place.
I mean, the the essence of it. Like, is it a harbor? Is it a place where people come in and dock themselves for a while? Or is it a path, like walking through the arboretum? Is it more of a moving or more of a sitting or a being still?
I don't, it doesn't strike me as a, um, when I think about it as kind of like online relationship with whatever it is I'm trying to teach, but then kind of in person. I'm going to mute you for a second, okay, Jonathan? You can unmute yourself, I think, hopefully. But more interrelational elsewhere, I think I would like it to be I can only be in so many places. And I like the one-on-one work, but I would love to see a much broader group of places for people to work. What are you thinking over there, Katrina?
Well, I really liked your ideas around naming it something homey. I always kind of associate you with that idea of, bringing people together around the kitchen table. I mean, I think it would be really sweet to name it something that was having to do with that imagery of a meal and the preparation together and the conversation that happens over a dinner table. So I don't remember offhand what it was. I know you had bounced some ideas around on one of the emails, and I liked them. I thought that was really, I don't know, it just gave me a good feeling. And I think with branding, that's what you want to evoke. I think in terms of naming, again, me and semantics when it comes to God and all that, and I think that you want to be inviting. So I worry that certain language or the wrong language would scare people away. But the feeling is what makes them want to explore. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm going back to try to find those, what I said about the table. I don't know where I'd put it. Yeah, I guess that's, there is something about that. It didn't felt like, I don't want to call it like God's table. That feels weird to me. But, oh, here it is. For some reason, I can't get over it. It's so weird. Yeah, people have thrown up things like devotional studio. I think it may be devotional table. I don't know. How about you, Doris? What are your thoughts?
I liked, as I shared with you, I like circle.
Yeah.
I like the image of a circle. I'm trying to be open because I haven't landed anywhere, Ian. But I keep, while you're talking, I keep writing down words that come up to me, and hospitality, generosity, seeking, and being fed are the things that stick out in terms of what the intention is. your comment about God's table made you feel a little uncomfortable. And maybe that's like, why is that? You know, do we have all this baggage attached to it, or is there a hesitation for how big this is, or does it, does it take away from the intimacy? I don't know, but I've just been doodling, Ian.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that and I just want to make sure. Hey, Jonathan, are you able to unmute yourself, Jonathan?
Yeah. Oh, I can totally unmute myself.
Okay. Yeah. It wasn't your breathing. It was just, I don't know. It was some weird background noise I was getting.
No, I'm a recovering mouth breather, everyone. So I actually, quick story. I went to a doctor and they were like, you only have 10% ability to breathe through your nose. And growing up, my mother would always be like, Jonathan, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. And I looked over at her. I was like, Mom, you've been trying to suffocate me my whole life. What a weird thing to say. Do we like the name table? I mean, edgeless table, rolling table. Do we just want to spitball names and see if something like glows to us?
Seeker's table.
What was that one?
Seeker's table.
Seeker's table. Yeah. Oh, I
That's
think
cool.
that was one I initially put in, right? Seeker's table.
I just found it, and I like that a lot.
Personally, I'm drawn to the table. The kitchen is my favorite room in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what I said here. I started throwing around ideas like seeker's table or devotional kitchen. And I was really excited when, Tiffany has gotten very busy recently, so she hasn't been able to chat so much. But, I just loved her, the model of bringing people over to talk, and I sort of saw, when I was thinking about that, I was like, that would be a great group of people to support. Seekers who are in, wherever they are. She's in kind of a small town in Vermont. Like, I'm probably never going to lead a retreat up there unless I go to Burlington, and but maybe there's a way to help her have dinner conversations with friends. I just love the idea of the table and eating. I love eating.
Seeker's table is very approachable.
Yeah, the seeker's table.
Yeah, that name is very approachable.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. And I think, sort of to go back to your question, Doris, the reason I wanted to, that I was shying away from God's table or whatever was, I had a conversation this morning with a guy who was like, I just can't use the word God. And then the further we got down the road, he was like, oh yeah, he started using God all the time. But, the initial part of that conversation was he can't use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's a whole group of people that would say that's too, I know what that is already, that's Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Or I know what that is, and they just wouldn't come in. So that's why I sort of shied away from it.
So I just did a quick check, and seekerstable.com and .org are both available, just so you know.
Yes. I think .com, right? I don't know.
It would cost not much to get both, and then you can redirect.
Right. So the Seeker's Table, what does that mean for you guys?
Fun. In the kitchen, it's a place where you gather and you nourish, the people you love and get nourished. It's also the place where board games happen and coffee conversations, homework, art, at least in my house.
So all those ways people are seeking to further themselves, homework or art, or creativity. I mean, I'd love to have a place at the seekers table. You got the grown-ups table, you got the kids table, the seekers table.
Yeah.
I'm
Get
down.
me in.
Yeah. Like it.
Yeah, we're setting you a place at the seeker's table. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I always loved the the Passover ritual of leaving a plate for Elijah, so you just have a empty plate at the table. And I think that was also, for me, it's always kind of the idea of, you just never know who's going to pop by. It might be somebody who just pops by, and you leave it. There's a plate. There's always a place there for somebody, Setting a place for you at the seeker's table. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I love the imagery, the coffee conversations, the art, the homework, the board games being nourished. What would you like to see out of this? Part of what I'm trying to figure out too is like how to be helpful. I was sort of publishing these meditations. That's okay. It just felt like very one-on-one, and I want to figure out how to move it. I still want to contribute in some way. I want to offer, I want to create something that's, helpful, and it may be inspiring or whatever it might be. But, ultimately, I don't want it to just be like this one-on-one with me and people. So, but at the same time, I recognize that people are maybe intimidated to sort of invite people over for conversations, or I don't know.
So when I'm visualizing like what it could be in a bigger way,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I think of is, so when I lived in Concord, I hosted these monthly new moon potlucks for women in the church. Anyone could come, whatever their spiritual inclination. And we would have a reading of poetry or just something beautiful. And then we would check in with each other, where we were in the season, where we were in our hearts, and we would have a meal together. And so some other groups had a more specific, like small group ministry aspect to it. The same idea, you would have a reading or something to cover that would keep everyone sort of on a task, but at the same time it would be exploration. So I picture things like that. So like if there's this collaborative seekers table initiative, and I'm going to host one at my home, then I can see welcoming you in a way that could be, okay, our timeline with Ian is going to be 7:00 on Wednesday night, and I'm going to have my laptop at Elijah's spot, and you're going to be there, and maybe you're speaking to us and reading to us, maybe you're staying with us the whole time, or maybe you're just checking in to say hello, and then we bless you, and then we continue our conversation by ourselves. Or at that table, I love the spot of the idea of leaving that space available because someone else might pop in too. Or it could be, okay, it could be a regular curriculum that you're working through or small group ministry that's shared throughout, on an international way. And we can sort of connect with that spirit of, wow, here in Maine at my table, we're talking about compassion. And over in Ireland at someone else's table, they're talking about compassion too. That excites me. Or, an a la carte. You already have these meditations and writings that we can draw from, and you can just suggest a recommended format, or we can just choose whatever we want to speak about. And then as the leader of that seekers table, we would check back in with you and say, this is what happened. Not oversharing to the point where we're breaching confidentiality of people, but where we're letting you know the impact it's having. So that's That's one thought.
I think that would be incredibly powerful. You know, one of the things that at this temple that I live in right now, we chant in like Sino-Korean, which is like not a Korean that's spoken. It's people who speak Korean don't really understand it, and it's a throwback from what the temples used to do in Korea. And they still chant this way, but nobody speaks this way. And when you first come, you're like, this is dumb. Why am I chanting in this language that nobody actually speaks or anything like that? But actually what it does is, this school is part of 50 temples worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go you visit another temple, they all chant the same way. And so you actually have this fellowship of, oh, right, there's these other people out there who are also chanting at the same time, the same way. And it's really quite, I like it. And Jonathan just wrote on the text, +1 to everything Twinkle is saying right now, video conference and everything, world fellowship through the internet. I just read this article talking about how social media isn't ruining our lives, but it's actually broadening our reach. It was quite a cool article, given all of the flack that social media gets.
Mm-hmm.
World fellowship. I like that.
I like that too. And if you, I don't know what you have in mind as far as aligning with other existing templates, but the CLF is, they search for ministries like this.
Right.
And partnering with them, I've not done it myself, but I know as far as distribution, they could send out an email to people, but they could also, they have their Google Live, you could do Facebook Live, but what I was thinking of is if you partner with something like the CLF,
mm-hmm.
you could also seek grants to support this so that you're being paid for your time, mm-hmm. and the program that you're putting together.
Mm-hmm. That actually CLF just they just straight up paid some guy to run a virtual. It's kind of like a Second Life kind of thing. But
Church Fellowship. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Church of the Large. It's a Unitarian Universalist. It's technically the largest Unitarian Universalist congregation because it used to be all through like a newsletter for people who were not near a church. But now, is it up to 5,000 now? Yeah.
That's what they recently said, yeah.
Yeah. It's, it's a member organization. People are a member of it. And it's worldwide. It's actually, the minister of it is one of my favorite people. I really, really like her. Meg is great. I would love to do something like that. Having sort of, a seat at the table, helping people think about, perhaps fostering or germinating a conversation that was happening in other places, so that people felt connected,
Mm-hmm.
And then, but also like turning it over to them so that they did their own sort of group seeking. I think that's actually a really cool idea. How are you doing over there, Katrina?
I'm doing well. I'm doing some multitasking, but I am liking what I'm hearing. I mean, I love the idea of you reaching a broader audience and just having more diverse community and, kind of more spokes on the wheel.
Thanks. What about you, Doris?
I love all of what has been said. It sounds wonderful. It is rooted in such a beautiful, loving place. It's organic. It's just going to grow.
Oh. Okay. Well, this has been super helpful and inspiring. Jonathan and I have been sort of like, how are we going to get together?
Right.
And it makes me think that, one of the ways that I might connect with people is it happens through these maybe dinner meetings. One of the things I notice about social media, and I think maybe I said this to some of you at some point, I had reached out to talk to this woman about a podcast. And when we actually got on the phone together, we realized we hadn't spoken in person in 10 years. But we're Facebook friends, and she actively shows up on my page and I actively show up on hers. So I knew it was, I knew what was going on with her children, and it didn't feel like it had been 10 years. It felt so strange, but it also wonderful. So, I don't want to keep you guys too long, but is there anything else you'd like to throw into the conversation about this?
This is pretty satiating. This is really cool conversation, and I really like where it's moving. I've had a lot of success with different conversation salons I've participated in over the years, and have always kind of longed for getting back in the loop of another one.
Cool. A salon. I actually really like that. A friend of mine used to host a salon, a music salon, and people would show up to perform, and they were so amazing.
That's a word that I use in my work when we film some of our Empowering Women episodes. A woman will host a salon in her home, and we'll go and have an assembly line basically of guests that we interview. It's really fun.
Wow, that is cool. Yeah, I like that term. Cool. Well, maybe this conversation has come to its conclusion. I don't want to cut anybody off prematurely, but I'm gonna go register the names, the Seeker's Table, and start seeing what can start pulling together from it.
That's awesome. Mazel tov.
All right. Thank you so much.
It was great to see you. Bye.
Thank you, Ian.
Namaste.
Namaste. Talk to y'all soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.